Hello, welcome to Generally Speaking. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. So Iran, of course, in the news with the Iran war going on. Ceasefire talks were initiated, didn't really go anywhere, so Trump decided he's going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz since Iran is now controlling who does and doesn't go through, which leads to the strange circumstance in which the president who wants the Strait of Hormuz to be opened has decided to blockade it. Well, the blockade isn't universal in terms of nobody's coming in or out. It's focused on ships going to Iran or ports or coming out of Iranian ports. And how is that going so far? Well, mixed results. I heard a couple of ships were turned around. But on the other hand, 4 Iranian-linked ships went through without any hassle, and 3 Chinese vessels went through without any hassle, 2 of which were specifically sanctioned in 2023, as you know, these ships can't be carrying cargo anywhere because they're taking oil from Iran to China, and we don't want it, but they went through. So 7 ships went through, but a couple of didn't. So it's waiting to see how that keeps going on. Please like and subscribe and hit the notify bell if you're liking any of this and liking me and my channel. What's going on now more with the changing world relationships, the United States with its tariffs, with its talk about taking over Greenland and its talk of leaving NATO and calling names on its friends. They're realigning themselves. So United Arab Emirates and Spain sent officers to meet with Xi Jinping in China to discuss Mideast security initiatives. Mideast, I gotta say, nowadays they're starting to introduce a new term for Mideast. They're calling it the Far West. So for some reason, that's being introduced. I don't know, call it whichever you want. But I want to talk about the security initiatives. Why is it security initiative? Who needs the security? Where's the threats? Where's the attacks? You know, nobody's bothering anybody. I think it's the arms manufacturers that keep pushing this. We need more weapons to secure ourselves, protect ourselves from, quote, the enemy. And now people from Europe, European countries are going to China to discuss security. So what happened? The big bag enemy, China, is now going to be, you know, your buddy in arms because they were never an enemy to begin with. Yes, sure, competing, you know, economically, but you know, not even competing, just there doing their thing, trying to make their economy go. I'm going to buy stuff, sell stuff, you buy stuff, sell stuff. We all could be happy. That's the way the world should go. Instead of security initiatives, they should have constructive initiatives. All right, Hungary was in the news because the leader in there, Viktor Orban, for years and years, 16-something years, he did funny things with the system so that he would never lose. Well, apparently he didn't do enough because he finally lost. There's a new guy. Everybody's cheering, yay, the end of Orban. But is this guy really any better? I mean, he might be a little bit better, but they both were in the same political party for, you know, most of their, you know, political career, until this opponent joined a different party, the TISA party. How much things will change in Hungary because of that? Not much to know. I don't really know how things were in Hungary anyway. You know, call him an autocrat, which he probably was. I'll go along with that. But there are other autocratic countries, let's say China, for example, right? And Russia. China's like this beautiful looking place. People have healthcare, they have cheap education. It's a modern, they picked up so many huge segments of the population out of poverty. You can say China's not a bad deal, even though it's an autocracy. You know, the thing is, you don't have really political freedom. So was Orban's Hungary like that? You know, what kind of a life situation did they have? And, you know, you have Saudi Arabia, which also has, you know, big time autocracy, you know, plain out, you know, you should call it dictatorship. That's what it is, except maybe dictator means a dictator. And Saudi doesn't have a dictator. It's got the Saudi family. That's almost a dictator, I would say. So, and a lot of those Gulf countries, you know, but their people all have a lot of good stuff. So, I wonder how much that's going to change. Well, one change that could be very notable, at least for the European Union, is the European Union has this rule: the 27 members, whenever there's some strong initiative coming before them that they need to vote on, all 27 members have to agree for something to happen, which that makes it very difficult for things to happen. For one thing, Hungary was voting no constantly on initiatives to help Ukraine because they viewed Ukraine as a lost cause. They also viewed it as, it was just an American, a Western puppet regime installed over the will of the people, and that it's a threat to Russia. That's why Russia's in there. They don't want, quote, enemies on their doorstep. And how do you know the West is an enemy? Because the West keeps calling Russia an enemy. They don't want them on the doorstep. None of them would accept enemy troops, military on their doorstep. The United States was ready to go for nuclear war when Russia was going to put missiles in Cuba in 1960. So, yeah, we got to recognize this. And Orban did it, so he would vote constantly against anything for Ukraine. Well, now we've got a pro-European Union guy. So what can happen is they can change the European Union, their rules to qualified majority vote, which means it only takes 15 out of 27 countries to agree with something. And now Orban is out. This fellow who's in would be willing to vote for that. And you need all 27 countries still to vote for this. But now that could happen, and they're really anxious to try to get that through. Back to the United States. The Supreme Court has declined to hear a freedom of press case. What happened? There was a young lady, a journalist, doing her journalism thing, and she, calls her contacts, says, do you have any information in the police department? She calls her contacts about, this event, that event, the typical stuff that always happens, and she published it, and the police didn't like it because it didn't paint a favorable picture. So they decided to charge her with misuse of Official Information Act, that she violated that. This act was established some decades ago, and it's meant to keep officials from trading information, that's the misuse of official information, for cash. That, if a reporter wanted to learn something, they say, well, give me a little money and I'll give it to you. Which this is not how information is supposed to go. For freedom of the press should be, it's free. That's the freedom part. Well, it's actually freedom means you can say what you want. But on top of that, might encourage officials to give out information they shouldn't because they're thinking they can get the cash. So at any rate, that's the act. It's there. And they're trying to say she got cash in the sense that she's also a video blogger, a podcaster, and that these blogs that she posts become more profitable for her. She gets more viewers. So, they're really stretching this misuse of information act. At any rate, the charges were dropped because they just didn't really apply, as I was describing. And so, yeah, she's okay, except she was very mad at that. She didn't want anything like this to happen again, so she sued them for, improper arrest charging, whatever. And it had to go up and up the cases until it hit the Supreme Court, which decided, this isn't worth us talking about. We're not going to hear it, which means that still journalists can be prosecuted under this misuse of information. So it's like a gag on the journalists. It's like something they have to fear, that they can still be charged with trying to report on what's going on. So that's a bad thing. All right, warehouse fires are spreading. Warehouse fires are spreading. Yes, we got the Luigi, they're calling them Luigi firehouse burners, where a fellow set fire to a warehouse full of things because he says we don't get paid enough. And I specify we. He wasn't talking about himself. He was thinking about him, yes, and his fellow workers. They don't get paid enough, setting this warehouse on fire. Well, this is like catching on. This happened in California, in Ontario, California. Yes, it's not just Canada that named Ontario. This also happened in Bakersfield, California. Another warehouse was set on fire. And then another one in Wayne County, Ohio, a lumberyard was set on fire. And then another one, a warehouse in College Point, Queens, is set on fire. It's like an uprising of the schmooze, the lower class, the tread upon, the tread something workers. Amazon warehouse, just another instance of corporate bad, right? A fella in the warehouse died. There's no really description what happened. There was blood on the floor. It sounded like either something hit him or maybe he just collapsed and hit his head. We don't know. But the thing is, he's dead there, and someone was trying to help him. Call 911. And does work stop? Hold on, everybody. No. They tell everybody, keep working. Walk around the dead guy. Just keep those packages going. We can't have them stop. That's the really cold. That's what you call a bad look. All right, last thing. I was just, cruising the web, and I was saying this thing about when you're getting on in years, such as myself, and you might be looking to going to a care facility for your old one, and you have to rely on Medicare. They might want to collect money back, and they might look at your house as an option for collecting that money, for taking the house. And in some states, they don't just look at your house, they look to your children. They've got laws that say if the parents have a debt and they can't pay it, they pass on, it goes to the kids, they have to pay it. So what you want to do, if you might be in that case, is consult a certified elder law attorney. And I never know there were those things. I knew there were different kinds of attorneys, but there's ones for elder law, and you need a certified one. And what you can do to protect your house is get a Medicare asset, because that's how Medicare looks at your house, as an asset. Get a Medicare Asset Protection Trust. So look at that. There's an organization you can call if you want more information, called the North American Elder Law Attorneys. .org. It's NAELA.org, and protect your house, if you're maybe in that situation. So there you go. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notify bell. I hope you enjoyed this, and please take care.